Afternoon VC, Harris here with another video on a Sunday. 16 hours ago I was in a club in Glasgow called Club Tropicana, punching the air to Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me, doing the robot to Salt and Pepper's Let's Talk About Sex, and threatening the DJ when he put on Simply Red Something Got Me Started, and also drinking mysterious blue drinks called a Moonraker. And it's okay, I'm back home now. I've done a urine test. I've been past medically fit to post videos, and I thought I'd look at some books because I was watching the VC the other day, and a guy called James Griffiths has he posts on the VC put a book out about squeeds. It looks really interesting. It's quite inspiring watching that actually. And a channel called Mama's Records also did a favourite books thing. So I thought, yeah, books. Let's do some books. After 35 years of buying books about music, I've got quite an arsenal. Some good, some bad. Always a mixed bag with music books, I find. But I thought I'd pick out what some of my favourites, some of the ones that have lasted me through the years, and I still enjoy rereading. Let's go with the first here. Our Band Could Be Your Life by Michael Azerrad. Came out in 2001. Fantastic. At the American indie scene. A chapter on Black Flag, Minutemen, Mission of Burma, Minor Threat, Who's Could Do, Replacements, Sonic Youth, Butthole Surfers, Big Buck, Black, Dinosaur Jr., Fugazi, Beat Happening. It only covers the period when they were on proper indie labels, and Michael Azerrad, fantastic writer. All these books live or die by the quality of the author. It doesn't really matter what you're writing about. If you're no good at writing it, these books never fly. This is absolutely fantastic. Came out in 2001. I think I bought this the day it came out, I've got a feeling. You've got to remember, this is almost sort of pre-internet, and you know what I mean when I say pre-internet, 2001. A lot of these bands were still kind of unknownish, really. I mean, it's pre-Spotify, really, isn't it? But pre-Wikipedia, everyone knows everything now, don't they? But yeah, absolutely brilliant book. Can't recommend this. The chapter on the Butthole Surfers is probably one of the funniest chapters in music writing, surely. Really recommend it. You can still get this. This is like the first press, I think, on the hardcover, but you get this on paperback pretty cheap. And if you're into this era, it's absolutely fantastic. That's Our Band Could Be Your Life, Michael Azerrad. On a similar tip, this is hard to find and this is amazing. The Creation Record Story. My magpie eyes are hungry for the prize. David Kavanagh, a melody maker, journalist, I think, and he wrote for a lot. He found another amazing author. Sadly, this is out of print, and even more sadly, David Kavanagh died about 3 years ago. He really is a fantastic journalist, and it's not only is it the history of Creation Records, it's the history of indie music in England from about 80 to, when Oasis went utterly berserk. It's 750 pages. It's one of those books you read it and you think, how the hell has he written this? The level. Alan McGee, the head of Creation, hates this book. I think he was going to put out some sort of lawsuit on him, which is always a good sign, actually, to be honest. The level of detail is phenomenal. There's an amazing chapter about the whole drama of My Bloody Valentine's Loveless and how it almost bankrupt Creation Records. There's an amazing chapter and quite a sad chapter about the House of Love, who were probably going to be the next Smith/U2 on the strength of their first Creation singles, which were Christine and Destroy the Heart, which were amazing singles. And they put an album out on Creation, which was pretty fantastic. Then they did the thing that happens to so many bands. They moved to a major label, and suddenly everything that made them magical, i.e. low budget recording, they were hungry, they had lots of ideas, suddenly disappeared. They went on a major label. They had about 14 producers, used about 7 studios. Their guitarist Terry Bickers, who was a bit of a genius, just had a complete mental breakdown. The band were going nuts. They were running up £1 million taxi bills every year. Poor old Terry Bickers became utterly suicidal. I think he tried to slash his wrist a few times. They got through it in the end. Their album did come out and it sort of went top 30, but it never happened how it was meant to. And this is an amazing book. I recommend it, but the downside is this is really hard to find. I mean, I bought it for £5.99 in HMV. It's out of print now, and it's utterly fantastic. Whether it'll ever be reprinted again, I don't know. Maybe there were illegal issues. I don't know, but this is utterly brilliant book. The amazing thing is when Creation were at their absolute height, pre-Oasis, with My Bloody Valentine, Screamadelica by Primal Scream, Teenage Fan Club, they were run on a shoestring. I mean, these records were top 10 in the UK. They were selling 500,000 And they literally had one computer and a fax machine, and that's it. Alan McGee was off his nut the whole time. He was an absolute caner of all time. Coke fiend. He was a nut job. Almost died, I think, about 3 times. He's on the straight and narrow now, Alan. But yeah, fantastic book. Talking of fantastic books, this was kind of the first of its type. I remember buying this when it came out. England's Dreaming by John Savage. Sex Pistols and punk rock. This came out in '91, and it was kind of a whole new kind of book. I mean, really, there weren't a lot of music books pre-'91, and if there were, they were pretty like, you know, if it was a book about the Sex Pistols, it would just be a book about the Sex Pistols. This takes a whole history of Britain from what gave rise to punk, from a misfiring Labour government to the horrendous Thatcher years when you knew that Thatcher said there's no such thing as society, you knew we were in for a rough ride. This is incredible. Again, it's another really lengthy read. I think it's about 700 pages. Utterly fantastic, brilliantly written. Covers the whole punk world, the whole politics of the UK. Superbly written. There's a heartbreaking interview at the time with Sid Vicious when he was in prison. It's just amazing. Incredible book. There's a fantastic couple of chapters about the Sex Pistols tour to America, which is an absolutely surreal, bonkers month. And then the whole aftermath of that tour and the Sex Pistols splitting. England's Dreaming by John Savage, an incredible writer, John Savage. Puts out great compilations as well. But yeah, thoroughly recommend it. Again, easy to find, just been reissued. It's not the easiest book to read, but it's a great book. You're not going to knock this out in a day, but superb. As I said, that was almost the first of its kind, really, taking a historical view and the effects. So what came next? I think most people in America will know this one. This came out in '96, probably inspired by England's Dream. I expect Please Kill Me, Legs McNeil and Julian McCain. I think a lot of people don't know this. It's all about the rise of American punk CBGBs from the sort of the 60s, Louie, Sam the Sham and all that stuff, up to punk. Fantastic book. Similar, Clinton Halen, From the Velvets to the Voivoids, came out in '93, I think. Again, I'm sure this, no coincidence, these two came after John Savage's book. Fantastic. And a little bit more uptake, but again, another good one. A little bit drier, but Dancer Days, 2 decades of punk in the nation's capital. This was kind of based around Discord Records, and the whole underground DIY scene in America and Washington. Great book, great photos. Just a really, really great book. A little bit drier than the other two, but still worth finding. And stuff like Bad Brains, Minor Threat, Faith, that whole, I think it covers Riot Girl as well, stuff like that. Just a brilliant book. Next up, this is fantastic. Leicester Bangs, Psychotic Reactions and Carburetor Dung. This is a collection. Leicester Bangs was like, if you don't know, and I never know if everyone knows who Leicester Bangs is or not. He was like the godfather of American sort of gonzo music journalism. I think he got sacked by the Rolling Stone in about '74, but he wrote for Cream. And these are the days in music journalism you were allowed to write 10,000 words about something. I mean, there's some great bits in here. I mean, the Psychotic Reactions and Carburetor Dung is all about him writing in the mid-'70s about 60s sort of trashy garage rock, which was way out of favour by the mid-'70s. By the time, you know, everyone was listening to progressive rock and jazz and, you know, even Zeppelin and Sabbath were proficient, weren't they? But so 60s garage was really sort of unfashionable, stuff like Louie and stuff like that. And there's a chapter about that in writing about those old books. There's a great bit where he reviews Lou Reed's Metal Machine music, which is famously an album of just feedback and nothing else, where Lou Reed was trying to get out of a contract. It's just great. He died in '82, Leicester Bangs. He was never going to live a long life, to be honest. A brilliant writer. He covers also, I mean, a guy who loved jazz. He loved Velvet Underground. He was one of the first to discover the Velvet Underground, first to discover the Stooges, but he loved pop as well. He loved ABBA. He was brilliant. It's a great read. Again, easy to find, I think. Psychotic Reactions and Carburetor Dung, Leicester Bangs. Well worth getting. Next up, this is kind of a genre within itself. I always love... I remember Henry Rollins always said that if a cinema put out a film called Happy Man, no one would want to see it. If a cinema put out a film called Miserable Man, there'd be queues around the block. And I do love a music biography based on tragedy or life going wrong, or kind of a David Lynchian, there's something wrong behind the white picket fence. Maybe the king of all these is Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye. I think his dad was to blame here. His dad shot him, so I think we can pretty much say that his dad was to blame. But absolutely fantastic book. This is the best of the Marvin Gaye biographies, I think. This is by David Ritz. Obviously, Marvin Gaye, hugely troubled, really. Huge reliance on drugs. Huge issues with his father. I think Freud would have a field day. But this is a real page turner. Really recommend it. On the same thing, The Life of Karen Carpenter, Little Girl Blue, fantastic. Well, not fantastic, tragic, really. I think her brother was to blame on this one. Her brother didn't really. I mean, Karen Carpenter just wanted to get out of it by about 1981, and he just wanted to keep her reined in and took a real control on her life. And of course, she suffered tragically from anorexia and a few mental issues. And this is a great book about a tragic subject. Little Girl Blue, The Life of Karen Carpenter. Yeah, well worth picking up if you see it. On a similar note, tragic country queen Tammy Wynette. I think the country music scene was to blame for this one. Fairly male-dominated scene, and Tammy Wynette was just getting ping-ponged between husbands, boyfriends, a rather patriarchal music scene, which was fairly distrustful still of strong female characters, and her life was just a mess of drugs and depression and alcohol, and a music scene that didn't really ever accept females particularly, unless they were eye candy. It's a great book. Tragic Country Queen, Tammy Wynette. On a similar vein, Bright Lights, Dark Shadows. I think the band were to blame for this one. It kind of like the pop, kind of a similar tale to Fleetwood Mac, but yeah, ABBA. I mean, was there ever a bigger band in Britain? Even bigger than the Beatles, really. And not even the Beatles were as big as ABBA from about 75 to 79, 80 in Britain. I mean, they ruled Europe, really. But obviously, with all the best books, there's some quite haunting stuff going on in the background where they were married to each other. And honestly, to be honest, if you write a song called One of Us and then give it to the woman you're just about to divorce, you've got to have balls of steel. You've probably got to carry your balls around in a wheelbarrow, I would say. But yeah, when you listen to those later ABBA songs, it's just them tearing chunks out of each other, really. And yeah, Bright Lights, Dark Shadows is a great book about the demolition of ABBA and the psychological traumas going on when they were still selling billions of records in Europe. I mean, phenomenal. But yeah, really good reading. No, it's another big read. But yeah, fantastic stuff. In a similar vein, I think the whole world was to blame for this one. Tearing Down the Wall of Sound, Phil Spector. Yeah, utter loon, wasn't he, Phil Spector? Genius, but yeah, like all the best geniuses, it was slightly unhinged. And my favourite story about Phil Spector is that he was so jealous of Ronnie Spector that he used to, when she was driving on her own, he used to insist she had a blow-up doll sitting next to her, dressed like Phil Spector, so people wouldn't think she was on her own. And he used to lock her up at home. He lived in this sort of mad castle, I think, in the Hollywood Hills, and yeah, I think in Los Angeles, where he just lived a total sort of deranged life, and wouldn't let Ronnie Spector free. She was basically captive. But obviously, it covers all the normal stories of him pulling guns out on the Ramones. Sadly, he didn't pull a gun out on Star Sailor when he produced or tried to produce them. But yeah, and we all know what happened to Phil, unfortunately. But yeah, fantastic stuff. Tearing Down the Wall of Sound by Phil Spector. Well, probably the best of the Phil Spector books. But Ronnie Spector's book's great as well. I always love a book where I don't love the band. And yeah, what a classic this is. The Dirt, Motley Crue. It don't get much better than this, does it? What a bunch of loons. Absolute lunacy of the worst kind. But yeah, I do love The Dirt by Motley Crue. Fantastic book. Yeah, they were caners. Another good one. This is really good. Ronnie Rose, Have Gun Will Travel. The spectacular rise and fall of Death Row Records. Death Row Records, which was founded by Suge Knight. The guy who I think he's doing a bit of bird at the moment. I think he ran over some blokes about 4 years ago. Incredible story of Death Row Records, and a really eye-opener of what it was to be black and trying to have a successful record company if you weren't Motown. And yeah, terrifying, this book, to be honest. I mean, it details their hanging Vanilla Ice out a hotel window, and you know, just the sheer violence that was going on. Incredible book, really incredible book. Well, I highly recommend it. And last time, I've got a couple that I haven't read this yet, M Train by Patti Smith, but I've got it autographed by Patti Smith, and I still haven't got around to reading this yet. But I love the fact that Patti Smith might have held this, because one of my heroes, Patti Smith. And also another autographed one, Set the Boy Free by Johnny Marr. Not the greatest book in the world, to be honest, but again, Johnny Marr, one of my absolute heroes, has autographed it. And again, I do like the fact that maybe Johnny Marr or his PA, along with Patti Smith's PA, have maybe held these, because they're probably two of my absolute heroes, Patti Smith and Johnny Marr. But yeah, there's some of my favourite music books, so I hope everyone's okay. I'm off to bed, and some more videos soon, I'm sure. Thank you.